Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. My name is Sheikh Mustafa, and today I'm going to be doing a teaching on the SDA, or Seventh Day Adventists. Now, this is a large group. Uh, they're based in 180 some countries, so there's probably about 2.5 million altogether. Now, like I say, they're a large group. They have schools, a lot of SDA schools. Hospitals. There's a hospital not far from me, right down the road here. It's a massive hospital that they own and control. There's a lot of teaching, and as far as what we would call cults in the United States, this is by far probably one of the most legitimate. It doesn't really teach things that are really crazy. So it's more legitimate than the rest. It's called a cult, and I'll give you a couple of reasons why as I do this video. But to get started into it, I want to say that it was started and founded by William Miller, who was a Baptist. Now, he was born in Pittsfield, Mass. in 1782, to give you some idea how long this group has been around. Of course, it's taken some evolution during that time. It doesn't represent the same group as it did, like every other group in the United States. They evolve through time. Now, he was born in Pittsfield, Mass., like I said, and in 1840, around the 1840s. Now, this is before the Civil War. I use the Civil War as a base so you can see where some of this stuff comes from, but around 1840, he predicted that Christ was going to return. And everybody got ready for it. A lot of people really made some sacrifices and sold their farm. Well, if Christ is returning, you don't need a farm anymore, right? You don't need a business. You don't need anything. You just get rid of what you have. And it said that they had bought some white robes and they were standing on a hillside waiting for the return. And consequently, you know the rest of the story, that Christ didn't return. So he done it again in 1843. And said that Christ was going to return in 1843. And of course, you know that didn't happen in 1843. So this is two false prophecies. He gave a date, and you know the Bible says that no man knows the date or the hour. But Miller thought he did, and he said 1843 was going to be the date. And you know, we need to get ready because, you know, they get their name from this, Adventism. They were waiting for the Advent, you know, to be taken up, the rapture, you know, for Jesus to come back, and they would all go to heaven, you know, up to heaven. This never happened, 1843. So you got around the 1840s and 1843, around the Civil War, in that era right there. Never happened. Two false prophecies by Miller. Now, Miller kind of fades out of the limelight at this time. Never did admit at this time that he was wrong. And around, I guess 1844, when the Advent didn't happen, another guy comes on the scene and predicts. This is Hiram Edson. This is the guy's name, Hiram Edson. And it was in Exeter, New Hampshire, that he predicted that the Christ, you know, that William Miller was right as to the time, but he was wrong as to the place. So Christ wasn't returning to earth, he was returning to the holy sanctuary. And this is where he was going to bring the blood of the atonement. Now, I don't know if you know anything about the Bible, but there's a long time between the supposed crucifixion and this bringing a blood atonement. At 1844, it makes you wonder what was Christ doing in the meantime through these centuries that passed, So 1844, he brings the blood atonement. And of course, we know Hebrews 8 and 9. If you just read those chapters right there in the book of Hebrews, you'll know that not only is it a prophecy that didn't happen, it's a false prophecy. So, and the Bible is clear on what to do with false prophets, and that was to stone them. But this is in 1844. All right. Now, this is when Christ was supposedly presenting the blood atonement. Now, his other job, what he was doing at this time up in the heavenly sanctuary, he was looking at the books of record. There's a lot of talk in Seventh Day Adventism about the books of record and the recording of who's going to get into heaven and who's not. So he was going over the books, doing a little audit on who's going to become, who's going to get into heaven and who will miss the shot and the chance. So this is what he's doing. And this is what he's doing to this day, they believe. Now, around 1863, thereabouts, Ellen White comes on this scene. And this is the one where Seventh-day Adventism really got pushed forward. We told you before, in every supposed cult, there was the founder, and then there was the one who really made it happen. And Ellen G. White was the one who made it happen for Seventh-day Adventism. She was a prolific writer. She wrote about 45 books. I have one of the books right in back of me on the shelf right there, and it's The Great Controversy. Every Seventh-day Adventist house has got one of those, and that's a book she wrote. Several other books from Adventism, anyway. I have some old ones that my father had because he was pretty well indoctrinated by Seventh-day Adventists where he worked. A lot of Seventh-day Adventists in Michigan, I told you, their home base being Battle Creek, but they spread to the UP as well. So here was one on Bible readings. I don't know if you can see it. Very old book. This book here is probably from the, this is from 1949. But I have also in my library, I have the original biography of Ellen G. White. And this book was from 1915. It's the biography of Ellen G. White. I don't know if you can see her. You get a good look at her. That's Ellen G. White. And an entire biography. And some of what I'm going to tell you comes from that biography because she wrote a lot of books. And, whenever you write a lot, and there's the possibility that something is not right, incorrect, or whatever, and later on it's torn apart. And the other book that I have on religions in America doesn't even mention Ellen G. White and barely mentions Miller as being the founder, and presents SDA as more of a common evangelical type religion in America, in which it probably is. They've got some peculiarities, and I'll talk some about that. But remember, Ellen G. White was the one who pushed SDA forward. Now, a little background on Ellen G. White. As a child, she was really sick all the time, very sickly. And later on in life, she got hit in the head with a brick, and she almost died. So these two things happened to her, sickly, and they based their beliefs, and she based her beliefs on the Bible and on prophecy. So you can hardly confront SDAism without knowing that they meet on Saturday. They believe in the Sabbath. They hold the Sabbath, the Old Testament laws. They hold the Old Testament laws as far as for diet, and they hold them rigorously. No pork, of course, but no meat whatsoever. So they go a step further. Now, the two false teachings that most would say would be the prophecies and the other false teaching of White, which was put people under the law when the New Testament says we're under grace. So this is what accuses them of being a cult. Now, they have the, I don't know if you know about it in the Old Testament, there's the two goats, for an offering, a sin offering. One was a sin offering that was slain, and the other one was turned loose. Now, these two goats are not actually two goats, they say, but these are two persons. One Jesus, being Jesus, who is slain for the sins, and the other goat as being the one that must be punished, and that was Satan, and he was sent off into the wilderness to be annihilated. Okay, that's one of the teachings that they have. When I took SDA, a man named Ben Bogus came to my house, our farmhouse that we had up in Michigan, and was teaching my mother and me. My dad already knew something about it, so he wasn't involved, but he would come weekly with a Bible lesson. Ben Bogus was his name. I'll remember him forever, probably. Real nice guy. Was trying to get us to come to the church and spend a lot of time teaching in the book of Daniel, teaching about prophecy, and also teaching about vegetarianism and the utility of it, on how it was good for you and health benefits. And finally got us going to the SDA church that was up in Wilson, Michigan, just a little ways away down the road. And we would attend that every Saturday. Now, they had foot washing as one of their ceremonies. And of course, they all abstained from meat and tobacco, alcohol, coffee, tea. They wouldn't drink none of these things. So they believed in living a clean life. Let's just put it that way. And the teaching, like I said, was heavily into vegetarianism. So we learned a lot about that. We learned a lot about the prophecies in Daniel. And there's where we spent our time. Now, there was a group some time back that was really annihilated by the government of the United States, and that was the Branch Davidians, which was another group off the Seventh Day Adventists. They were Seventh Day Adventists, and they fell under the teaching of David Koresh, which was considered a real cult leader. And they went off into a commune, and they made money by selling weapons, in which the ATF gave them permits to do. Later on, because of the number of children there and the activities of David Koresh, just to give you a little background, they decided that it wasn't a good place for the children. They were going to come and they were going to take the children away. And the Branch Davidians fought the ATF. And there was a battle, a gunfire battle. Finally, the ATF burned the building down for protecting the kids. That's how they decided the best way to protect the kids was to massacre everybody there. So they burnt the building down. And about 200, I think, died in that fire. And David Koresh, along with a lot of his followers. So I'm going to end the section on Seventh-day Adventism. I would say personally, I don't find it to be a cult. I personally find it to be off in some of its teachings, or at least they have to teach me a better definition of what they're trying to propagate by the Bible. If you read the book of Hebrews, you'll see we're under grace as a Christian, and it's not by works, but yet they hold to the works, but not all the works. They don't practice circumcision, and if you ask them why, and I think that came up when Ben was teaching me. I asked him, well, what about circumcision? You don't practice that? He said, no, we don't stick to that part of the law. Well, that's all part of the law. So you can't practice one part of the law and leave out some others and cherry pick and choose what you want to do. And but you can overlook some of these things. And I had a good time as a child, not as a child, but probably as a teenager, And this was before I went into the military. And, I made a lot of friends in the SDA in that church that was just down the road from us a few miles. I lived in Bagley, Michigan. We had a farm there. And this was in just down the road. It wasn't far. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this lesson today. Getting to know what people believe is imperative if you're going to reach people with the message of Islam. You just cannot do it any other way. You have to know what they believe and where they're coming from. So, brothers and sisters, if you're not a subscriber, I suggest that you become one. We're going to go on and on with religions in America. We're going to go with the cults, and when I'm finished with that, we're just going to go with the ordinary religions of America. So you have a basic knowledge, and I figure there's probably some 20 videos I'm going to do in this area. So if you're not a subscriber, subscribe, like this video, and stay tuned, hit the bell, and stay tuned, and I'm going to be producing a lot more of these videos in the future. So I hope that the pandemic doesn't reach your home. Inshallah. May Allah bless you, may He keep you, and may you prosper throughout this period that we're going through, and may you stay safe in your family. Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters.